look on your end. How are you?
Good. I've started recording. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Yeah.
I've got some of your work for my backgrounds, and you've got the same.
Yeah.
So
Well,
your name is Robert L. Pepper, huh?
Robert L. Pepper.
What's
That's
the L stand for?
for Lawrence.
Lawrence. Is that where did that come from?
That is my dad and mom. Although I was supposed to be an Alexander, but they
Is the
changed.
name of a relative, or is your dad named Lawrence?
No, they just like the name.
All right. Was Lawrence of Arabia the big hit of movie at the time?
I can't remember what year that came out.
What year were you born?
I was born in '72.
72. That wasn't Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh.
That was more like Straw
Lawrence of New
Dogs or
Jersey.
something. What?
More like Lawrence of New Jersey.
All right. 1972 films. I was born in 1962. Well, Ben came out. Jeremiah Johnson came
Ben,
out.
yeah, I
Cabaret.
remember watching Ben when I
Deliverance came out. Solaris came
Never
out.
did.
Poseidon
Solaris.
Adventure.
Yeah.
I was, I was 10. So I'm what month were you born?
I was born August 7th, 1972. I'm a Leo.
Okay.
That
And you
makes
were
sense.
born in Brooklyn? Born and
I
bred
was
in
born
Brooklyn?
in Brooklyn, born and raised in Park Slope.
All right.
It was quite different back then.
Explain.
Lots of graffiti, gang fights, boxing matches in the public school across the street, cockfights in the backyard. Lots of poor families.
So were you scared? Were you scared?
No, I was too little to be scared. I don't know. I mean, I knew most of the people around. It was more like you'd kind of like hang out with people on your own block thing. So, the kids wouldn't go. I was born on 13th Street, so the kids on 13th Street wouldn't go to like 15th Street. 'Cause they were just,
So were you less afraid than your contemporaries?
I mean, not, I mean, it was weird. It wasn't. You weren't afraid, but you were careful.
Right. So
That's
like
what-
I grew up in
I think people are more
Maine.
afraid now.
yeah, I grew up in Maine, and so I watched New York from watching like the Warriors or something, or Taxi Driver, and where it was afraid from a distance, and I don't know, and I'm probably afraid by nature anyway, and maybe you're more at peace by nature, but it's because you live right around the corner from where they shot Dog Day Afternoon, which is a big
That's correct.
movie in
yeah.
my life. Yeah, I thought that
Right
was
on the
pretty cool.
Prospect Expressway. Yeah.
All right, so you're a painter and a musician and a filmmaker, and you've written books, and you just when did you start being an artist?
I mean, I've always kind of made art, even growing up. Like my dad used to encourage me. My mom used to encourage me by giving me art supplies, giving me like crayons, colored pencils, paper.
Were
And
they
I remember-
artistic too?
My dad, well, he could draw some technical things. He was retired now, but he was a ironworker surveyor and all. He used to have these surveying plans and stuff, and he was really good at technical drawing. My mother, she could have been artistic, but she never was. I remember her. She would sit by the phone and chat with her friends for hours and just keep doodling these black and white designs on like papers, and I think that's
How-
where a lot of my work came from.
How old were they when they had you? Were they young or older?
They were probably in their 20s. Yeah,
Mhm.
like early 20s. Yeah,
That might account for it.
yeah.
So you started drawing, and then what were you like in school?
I was quiet. Yeah, I was quiet, but I always took to the arts. So like any kind of chance to like make something, I'd be kind of curious about it. Like we would do like pottery, we would do drawing. I'd hang out with the kind of nerdy kids and we like just make drawings and stuff.
Did you have any heroes when you were a kid?
Heroes. I mean, when I was growing up, one of my first albums were Black Sabbath, which my mom gave me, and I love that. So
Which album?
Hero, the first one.
Okay.
I don't know if they were like heroes, but they were definitely like, I loved it, you know.
Well, yeah, or people you admired or looked up to or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there was that. It was just so different from what my parents would listen to. They would listen to the Beatles and all that kind of thing. And then there was like Black Sabbath, and I was like, oh my God, you know, what is
Did your mother think you would like it, or?
I don't think they never really tried to get me into anything. They were like, "Oh, here's our record collection. If you want to listen to it, fine." And
part of their record collection had Black Sabbath, and you grabbed it.
Yeah, that was my mom's. Yeah, my mom's selection was Black Sabbath.
I see. And where did they grow up? And
they grew up in Park Slope, Brooklyn, as well.
Oh yeah,
we're locals. Probably,
okay.
A few that are left. You know.
So, what was high school? What was junior high school like? Sometimes it can be a battleground. Like
junior high school, I strangely I went to Catholic junior high school and Catholic high school and Catholic grammar school. So it wasn't like terrible, but it still was kind of like religious. We'd have to go to religious classes and stuff. It was rather calm. I mean, there was some bullying like everyone grows up with, but like, I don't know. It was, for the most part, uneventful. I mean, they used to take us to these like god awful, like, great adventure trips. And like, I don't know. I never used to like any of that stuff, I mean, when they took us to a museum, I liked it, but,
was that in junior high school?
That was in junior high school.
Yeah.
And they
what museum did you go to?
The Met.
Yeah. What part of the Met did you focus on?
And the Brooklyn too. Brooklyn, I live right by the Brooklyn, so
yeah.
My parents would actually take me there too. Part of the Met that I liked even back then, or the Brooklyn, probably the Brooklyn was my first experience, was the Egyptian wings, because I've always been influenced by that kind of stuff. That's always kind of in me. But one thing I remember, which is kind of one of my favorites, is Marc Chagall, but that was because a friend of mine growing up, his dad had like a reprint on his wall, and I never thought of it as like some sort of like modern art masterpiece. I just looked at it as this guy. He had this like cheap print on the wall, and I was like, oh, that's cool, And then years later, I was like, oh, that's in the Modern Art Museum, I was like, that's pretty cool. But
what about high school?
High school, Catholic high school, that's when I really jumped head into the heavy metal and the punk rock kind of stuff.
What bands?
Slayer, Metallica, Exodus, Venom. Those are the main ones.
What year was
this? Judas Priest.
What year was it?
What was that? I graduated in 90, so whenever.
In 90?
Was it 90 I graduated? Yeah, and then I went to college. Yes.
Okay. All right. What about substances?
Hard to remember years, but yeah.
What about substances? What were they, and when were they introduced? And you don't have to answer any of these questions.
I probably smoked pot with a friend before.
What age?
Drank alcohol or anything. That was probably freshman year of high school. So when was I? I was probably 15 or 16. And this is kind of funny. Like we're walking, we're hanging out, and I didn't really like to drink that much when I was really younger. And then I got later into high school, I did. But like we were walking down the side of the park to the bowling alley, and we went to the bowling alley, and I had never bowled before, and he's like, and I've never smoked pot before, and so I think I smoked like 2 or 3 totes. And we went there, and I was like, okay, this is cool. And so we're just about to bowl, and I take the bowling ball, and I went like this, and I didn't realize how heavy it was, and I let it fall, and it hit like the concession stand behind me. And, you could imagine how that made me feel. I was just all like freaked out. I was like, oh my God.
How old were you? How old were you?
That was probably when I was like 16 or something.
Yeah. So you threw it backwards because.
Yeah, like I went like this to get the momentum.
Right. And then he
threw it. And slipped my fingers and
Released.
hit the concession stand. And the guy was like, "No, it's okay, and it's okay, it's okay." And I was like, I got over it. I moved on, but like, that was it's really funny and traumatic.
Were girls and boys pointing and laughing, or just in your mind?
No, I think we were. I can't remember anybody else actually being at the bowling alley besides me and my friend Jason. So like, that was pretty funny. But yeah,
So what about? Did you go to any concerts?
Growing up, I didn't go to a lot of concerts in high school. I think my first concert ever was the Scotalites. They're an old ska band, and that was free at Prospect Park. And that was probably when I was about probably 17, maybe 16 could be. But yeah, like I never used to frequent a lot of those. I used to just hang out like in the neighborhood with the weird kids,
What were the weird? Why were the weird kids weird?
Well, I mean,
what made them weird as
primarily a Catholic neighborhood with kind of people who listened to just like Led Zeppelin and stuff like that. And we were more into like punk, and we would give ourselves mohawks and like, tattoos and like wear weird clothes.
So it was more of the music and the fashion.
There was the music and the fashion pretty much,
And were there cliques of kids in high school like there is in the suburbs of like, these are the stoners and these are the punk rockers?
Oh,
and these
totally,
are the artists?
yeah. I mean, but I think there's more of a crossover in the time when I was in high school. So like a lot of the metalheads would hang out with the skinheads and the punks. But I mean, then there was your just weird art. Then there was, that was true musically, but then like you would have these like, like the art school students would hang out with each other.
Do you know any of those kids now still?
Not really.
What'd you do in college? Where'd you
Funnily
go?
enough, I do still talk to my high school art teacher, Ralph Tuturo.
Okay.
Who was very supportive during that time and throughout the years, and he's come to my shows and I've gone to his shows. He's a big influence on my art too.
What's his name?
Ralph Tuturo. He's I believe John Tuturo's cousin or something.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool guy. Yeah.
Where did you go to college or university? What did you study?
I went to Brooklyn College and I got a BA in fine arts, and that was specifically in painting. I also have an unofficial minor in anthropology as well. So I never claimed.
Well, how were your grades in high school and junior high?
It was always what was the scale? Like, was it up to 4? I think I was always about a 3.0 out of 4 or 3, maybe a little.
Well, what's that story where some school teacher probably in high school said like, who do you admire or something, or who do you what's that? Can you tell that story?
I think his name was Mr. Fusco. He was a religion class, actually, which is funny. And it was do a paper on who you look up to, and I don't even know why I took this route, but I mean, I liked things, but maybe I never really looked up to many people. But I guess I was thinking at that time like actors or musicians and stuff. I wasn't thinking of dad or mom or whatever, and basically I turned it around and I was like, well, I look up to myself because I have the potential to pretty much do anything I want in my life. And I elaborated a little bit, and he actually gave me, I think, a B, but he was like, I would have given you an A, but you needed to elaborate a lot more. It was not the best paper. Maybe it was a C. I can't remember.
But he wasn't.
But he pointed it out through the whole class, and he was like making fun of me for it. And I was just like,
the fact that you picked yourself, right? Is that when he had a bone of contention with the fact that you picked yourself and not, or no, or what? He didn't have a problem with that.
He did, to a point, have a problem with that. But then he was like, if you're going to do that, you have to be a better writer about it.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, fair enough. But I mean, I don't know. It wasn't like a self-centered thing. I don't know. I was just thinking of just like, well, I don't know. Like I could do anything at this point in my life,
Well, it just seems like some people are looking to the outside to
Yeah.
sort of affirm themselves, or to sort of belong. And then some people, that's probably most people, but I don't know, I'm not a statistician, but like I think a lot of some people just like have an inner wisdom, and I think that's what's remarkable about you, being your friend and knowing you for as long as I have, that you just sort of have an inner um compass that's sensible. I mean, your life is is balanced, I think, in a lot of ways, in that you have a good job and a good marriage, and you have artistic pursuits, and you are engaged with other artists, and promoting other artists, and starting like getting shows together and getting people together, so you're able to make films and also do music and then also paint, and then and be able to that it's well rounded and sort of balanced, and I think your temperament is balanced
I try.
too. Yeah. Was it always that way, or was there a moment where there was extremes in your
No,
life?
I mean, as a teenager, I was crazy and I was imbalanced, and I mean,
Okay.
everybody is.
In
I think
what
everybody
way?
is in their own way.
I know, but there's got to be a story there. I want to hear it.
I mean, I got arrested, for punching a cop, and it was when I was drunk, and it was a stupid thing, and like it was when I was like 21, and then I guess I came to a realization then I got to cool it down, But I mean,
Was that was that was that an aha moment, or was that a pivotal moment for you?
well, yeah, I guess. I mean, it was just like, oh, you got to, yeah, go for the balance,
So,
not
but
punch.
how long were you in the cooler for?
I mean, it was just one night, and then I had to go
But
to
punching a
court.
cop is pretty
Well,
radical.
yeah, I mean, it was like
Did
they
you punch
held
him in the
me, and then
face or in the body, or what? Was it one
I
punch or
it
several?
was so stupid. So we were at this like free wine party by Bear Jones, who was
There's
one
the
of the
problem.
yeah
Free
by one of
wine.
he was like associated with one of the Warhol guys. He was
Who?
supposed
What's
to be
his name?
Bear Jones,
Hmm.
and so drinking with these idiots, and
What neighborhood was it?
it was actually at the Elvis Bar that was on West 8th Street in the West Village.
And what year? I guess that's 91
Um,
or 92.
yeah, about
Okay, keep going.
yeah. And so, of course, wine, 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 wine. And then a friend of mine, Brian, came into the bar. Big guy. He used to have a big leather jacket with the Brooklyn Scumbag on it. And we were good friends. And we started daring each other to like do things. And so Brian's like, I dare you to throw this glass at the bartender. So I was like, okay. And I did it. And then the bouncer comes and he like throws me out, and I'm yelling at him. And then I black out, you know. And then I hear, oh, hey, turn around. So I turn around thinking it's the bouncer. And then, bam, I nailed him right in the face. And then down goes the guy.
And it was a cop.
And I jump on him and I'm like, oh, shit, he's a cop. And then I hit him again.
Wow.
And then there were squad cars and they picked me up and threw me in the back.
Wow.
And they dislocated my arm and like,
Wow.
but I deserved a beating. And then
I deserved a beating.
yeah, and then and then what they do is, you go in and then they schedule a court date and bail and blah 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 blah, and then the cop never showed up at the court hearing, and I don't know, and then it got dropped, and then
Did you have to stay overnight in a cell or whatever?
yeah.
Yeah. Was it just
Worst part
overnight?
of the whole experience is what they gave me was an egg sandwich in the morning, which is the worst food ever.
Yeah. Is it greasy and overcooked?
I hate eggs.
Yeah. All right. So the next morning you said like things have got to change. No more free wine.
Basically, I was like, I can't. This is stupid. I need to focus. I mean, it takes.
But you did it but you had it within yourself. It wasn't like mom and dad were like, grounded.
Oh yeah,
you.
I mean they help, of course, but
you reflected upon it yourself and said like, I can't go there anymore. No.
yeah, no, well, yeah. I mean, I did. I mean, yeah. I think the best thing was around that time, and this was probably after a couple of years after like I was hanging out in the Lower East Side a lot with all the punks and stuff and goths, and like I think I just came to a realization that I was just like, I'm spending all this time just hanging out when I could be making artwork and music. So I was like, I kind of switched then. I think that was the switch. And then, yeah, and then I was like, I remember sitting in my first apartment in a sweaty kind of room, no AC. And I was just like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a book. I'm going to make CDs. I'm going to have gallery shows. And
how old were you? Were you still
little
20?
by little, I did.
How old were you when you did that? Where was that apartment? What?
22, 23.
22, 23.
23, yeah.
And where was the apartment? Lower East Side?
Brooklyn. It was
Brooklyn?
In Brooklyn.
Yeah. So what was the book? What was the book?
That was the pivotal thing, I think.
Yeah.
Well, the book is called The Man with the Bleeding Eyes. And like, I finally published it after all these years, about like 8 years ago, but I wrote it a long time ago. And it's based on like horror fiction. I'm a big Lovecraft fan. I'm a big Macon fan. I'm a big Algernon Blackwood fan. Like all of those horror. I read H.P. Lovecraft's horror and supernatural literature, and then I started picking through it and getting book by book of what he recommended and read it. And so it's highly influenced on that. And I mean, you can get it digitally. I also have a bunch of copies here. But I printed it, and that was it. That was my goal, was just to print it, and then that finalized it for me. And I've given it to friends, sold a couple, and we have some left over.
What about the CD? You said a book, a CD, and
CDs were, well, I mean, I'm still making CDs with a lot of friends, and making CDs with my band and vinyl, and
and what was the instrumentation?
It's always been experimental, electronic, borders now a little bit more musical stuff.
What was your first instrument?
Keyboard.
Yeah.
So this all started with learning about Zoviet France. They're a post-industrial group, I guess you can call them. I think it was late 80s, 90s, etc. They're still around, but yeah, when I heard that, I was like, what is this music? How do you do this? And then I was like, oh, you could get a 4-track and then just record anything and make these compositions. So I bought an old Tascam 4-track and a Boss 808 mixer, I think. I can't remember what it was, but a CS1 Yamaha keyboard and a couple. Did
you improvise with other friends, or
not at that point?
What did you do at that point? It was just you, and you just did
me recording 4 tracks,
track after track. Yeah. And how long were the pieces, and what did they sound like? Or
between like 3 minutes and 15 minutes. They're really abstract. Those are the earlier ones. They're on my Bandcamp page. There was Jesus, what now I'm like, Antarctic Tribe is one, and the earlier works, I forget what they're called.
And you said you were going to start do
Electric
paintings?
Rain, Antarctic Tribe, another 23. Those are the 3 ones that were the earliest ones.
So you said, I'm going to write a book, make some CDs, and paint, I think you said. What were the paintings?
Well, I was painting, but I was going to have art shows.
Art shows, yeah.
I found a place on 53rd Street that actually accepted a couple of pieces. But I think that was more or less a scam. But hey, I had a show on 53rd Street. That's what I said I was going to do, and it was shown. It had an opening. It was legit. But
right. So you had this sort of wake up crisis of like, look, I can't, and you said I'm going to set these goals and I'm going to achieve them, and you did.
Basically, yeah.
I think that's huge. Not everybody. What? And you continue to do that way. Yeah. Set out goals and pursue them. Yeah. How has your painting changed throughout the years?
Well, I think now that I look back on the older paintings, I think it's a lot more focused. It's a lot more detailed. Now that I look at the older pieces, it's really minimal compared to what's going on now.
But were they the same sort of abstraction? I mean, you seem to create these kind of like oceanic and sort of like an outer space or inner space worlds where I get the sense that there's no gravity, especially with the piece behind you, that it's almost a world with no gravity. That's more of an atmosphere that sort of floats rather than, it's almost like ambient painting where there's no sort of ground and there's no sort of center of gravity, or there's no clear east, west, north and south.
I mean,
did it always have that sort of floating if you get my meaning, the
Yeah,
quality
no,
of
no,
it.
it always did have that kind of floating stuff. I mean, occasionally I'll do my own version of a landscape. I mean, it is kind of obvious that it's a landscape, but it's more like a surreal landscape. But I mean, I still do those. But
Yeah, it's more like
it's
an
similar, but more
atmosphere. Yeah,
focused.
what
Yeah, it is more
atmosphere might be a better work
I mean, I
reason.
like a lot of microcosmos, macrocosmos. I like underwater stuff. I like horror stuff. I like surreal stuff. I like breaking down portraits, into just shapes and colors, abstractions. Uh, you know, the like the intangible aspect. I like to think that I paint the intangible.
The intangible.
Yeah,
I thought I added some of these. Here's some other ones. I thought I
well,
added the figurative ones.
yeah, I do
Uh,
portraits too. I mean, there's
here's
that's one.
here's
That's Barbara Steele.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I like to do portraits, and I like to go pretty far with the representation. And that's Pixie. She's the woman that designed the 1JJ Tarot deck. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm wrong. Rider Waite. Rider Waite.
Oh yeah.
I think it's the Rider Waite. Yeah. But she's uncredited for that.
Isn't her last name Smith?
Yes, Pamela Coleman Smith.
Yeah, they're finally starting to credit her on the cards. Yeah.
Yeah, after all these years.
Um,
So I like to go with representation to a point, and then I'll start breaking it down. And sometimes I go really far, sometimes I don't. It depends upon, I don't know, just my mood and how I want to represent the person.
right. So how do you schedule your day? Do you have a things to do list? Do you make lists?
I do sometimes, or sometimes I just remember. I guess I wait. I guess my brain, like I know my limits of remembering things, so I'll start to make a list when I kind of saturate myself too much, and I'm like, I get overwhelmed, and I'm like, oh God, I need to make a list. Here we go.
So when did you start collaborating musically with people? If you started by yourself?
Well, the first person that I collaborated with was probably Larry Zilmra. And that was in a band that we had called Magic Zerio. And that was probably around 2000, maybe 2001, something.
So just a duo?
It was a duo, yeah. It was electronic experimental, but that was more beat oriented. That was more on the electronic side, but it was like half improv and half experiment.
And did you play out a lot? Did you play out a lot, or did you record mostly?
We did. We played around the city a lot in New York. We did a small tour once down south.
What clubs in New York did you play?
CBGB's Gallery, CBGB's. I guess one of those shows. We opened for Flipper. That was fun. We opened for like some of the old Cro-Mags at one point and Red Hook. It was funny because we used to get on these bills because our old guitarist Eric used to be part of the hardcore scene. So he used to bill us, and we were heavy, but we weren't hardcore. We would wear crazy like devil suits, monkey suits, and have all these bright lights and fluorescent lights and stage props and stuff. So the hardcore guys didn't know what to make of it. I mean, it wasn't like the Cure opened up and they beat them up, but they were like, "What the hell is this weird shit?" I remember one guy coming up to us in one of the shows, and he was just like, almost like he didn't want to like say it too loud. He's like, "Guys, I love what you're doing. It's not hardcore, but this is really great." But
I think that's great when those moments happen where it's like you break through and something wakes up in somebody's head where you're like, oh, but
there's a connection there. I think one of my favorite shows we played was there was a couple of bookers around New York who would just book anybody, and it was like steal the money from the door. So we played the CBGB's Gallery. It was in the basement, and it was like one of these like promoters that everyone hated. But we were like, oh, let's have fun with it. And so we got the crazy monkey suits with all the Dayglow paint, and we had all the smoke machines and video projectors, and we set everything up, and like there was like before we even came out with all that, but there was like a couple of rock bands that opened up, like your typical Jersey rock band. So there was like a real Jersey rock band crowd. And then we came out with all the smoke machines and all like the makeup and all the craziness, and like we started playing. And the funny thing was, is that all the women started dancing because it was danceable, you know. And I think some of the guys were like, "What are you dancing to this stuff for?" You know, get out of here! This is too weird. You know?
You're gonna steal our women. You're gonna steal our women with your
set,
what?
you know?
What was that?
We played a whole set. You know, a couple of people probably liked it. You know, it's cool.
Yeah, it's probably not real, but it's like you're gonna steal our women with your weird music. I don't know.
Yeah. One of us should have went out in the monkey suit like King Kong and just was like, take your
So,
way.
was that clear that you guys were doing something that wasn't being done at the time, or was it necessarily specific to that venue and that night?
No, I mean we did that all the time. It's just
But do
that
you think you were part of a movement, or do you think you were
no, we
iconoclast?
were never part of a movement in that respect.
So what you were doing very different from the other people performing around you?
Oh, I would say the people that we knew, yeah, and that we got put on the bill with. But like, you know, at that time I didn't know that many people. But
Yeah.
we would get booked on like some noise shows. We weren't really noise. Goth shows. Like, oh, we did a couple of fetish clubs that were fun. The fetish crowd really liked us.
What clubs were they? What were they called?
There was one in the West Village. It used to be the Cooler, but then it was something else. I'd have to look up the name. But anyway, they had a fetish night every month. And the guy loved us, so he booked us like almost every other month. And we did like 3 or 4 shows there. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, you know, just all the weird fetish stuff. I guess they liked it because we would wear weird costumes and stuff, you know.
So how were you making?
The music was danceable. So.
Good. How were you making a living at the time?
At the time, I was probably working for a photo company. Yeah, you know, doing like captioning or something, or I don't know.
And how did the city change, New York City, from sort of like, how do you see it?
Well, I mean, from then, like, there were a lot of shows would happen in the West Village.
I mean, even from like high school on, like, what was your experience of like being born in '69 and then going through the '70s where it was really rough, and then this '80s boom, and then the '90s? How did you experience that? Because there was a huge, like, the city just got tons of money and stuff, became like, from being like bombed out and like the government saying like F you, we're not going to bail you out, to like suddenly being this boom.
Well, you know, when I was '70s, I was really young. So I didn't know. I was just like, hey, this is how it is, you know.
Right.
And I was fine with it. And then the '80s, even though growing up in the '80s was rough in Brooklyn, obviously, like I think one time when I was like 15, I took the train to the city because everyone was like, oh, CBGBs, you got to check it out. So I just jumped on the train, and I don't even know how I knew how to get there. I just did. I got up at Second Avenue, and because you didn't have the internet, you know, it's like I don't know how I knew how to get there. And then,
but you're on the F line, right? So you can get there pretty easy.
So I got up at Second Avenue, and I walked by, and I was like, oh, there it is, you know. But this was in the daytime; nothing's going on. And I was like, oh, that's cool. There it is. And I was walking along the Bowery, and that was just, you know, weird in the '80s. You know?
Yeah, no, it was still rough, but you know, the '70s I think was worse. Yeah.
I went to Tompkins Square Park, and I walked throughout the whole park, and I was just overwhelmed. I was just like, you know, there was like shantytown, punk rockers, metal dudes, goths, homeless people, blah 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 blah, transsexual people.
What year was it?
It was all, God, like maybe 85.
85, yeah.
Maybe 87. I think.
87.
You know, but it was like all the stuff that I didn't know. You know, and then so I remember leaving the park, and I was like, okay, I got to process this. And I jumped on the train, and I went back to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that was too much for me, you know, in one sitting, you know. It was crazy. Yeah. But and then the '90s came around, and things got a little better. Then I was getting older, and then I started to go into more shows and stuff. I remember seeing the Cramps. They're like around '90. going to the Ritz, and that was amazing. That was one of my first like major shows. I mean, the Skylight was a major show, but like the Cramps were like in a club, you know. I think a guy, it was my ex-girlfriend's sister, Cliff, who got us two tickets for free, and we went. And I think they see the Cramps, and then
at the Ritz.
At the Ritz,
Yeah.
I think I was on top of the crowd for the whole time there. Just like I was just like, oh my god, this is so good. You know?
What do you mean on top of the crowd? Like crowd surfing? Like they were carrying it around?
Yeah. And so I think who opened up for them? The Flat Duo Jets. There was a rockabilly band from Alabama. Yeah, they were pretty good. They weren't the Cramps, but they were pretty good. So that was, you know, and there was there. So we started going to more shows, hanging out in Central Park, and you know, with a lot of friends there from my good friend Jack. His friends we would hang out with from high school. So I think I used to hang out with his friends more than I did with people that went to my high school. But, and then
how did Magic Zerio like? You closed up shop at a certain point, and why? You sort of didn't you change?
Just you know, it just kind of ended. It was the guys didn't want to do it anymore, so that was it. You know, I mean, I still talk to Eric. We don't talk to Eric though, not for no reason. It's just I don't know where he is right now.
And what did you do after that?
Well, I always did Pas Musique, but back then I really didn't take it on the road and stuff. So I was like, okay, you know, I'm gonna focus on my main project and Pas Musique if I'm not going to do Magic Zerio.
When did Pas Musique start?
That was around, well, I mean, that was like 95. I started it. That was the base.
And was it just you?
It was. And then I really stepped it up in around 2009 when I met John Worthy. And I met him at Genesis PR's lecture in the West Village. And we became friends. And so we started jamming with him. And
what lecture?
A Genesis PR lecture.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Disinformation. It was someplace in the West Village. And so I met him there. We became friends. And I think the first gig I ever played with John was at the 169 bar. And he just like hid in the corner with a microphone and he was just growling the whole time while I played beats. I think I might still have a little clip of that somewhere. But anyway, and then he became part of the band. I think it was around, I don't know, 2010 maybe. I think that's when I met Amber Bryan. And she was my girlfriend at the time. And then she became part of the band. So it was a trio. And then a little bit later on, I met Mike Durick because he reached out to me on MySpace and he was just like, wow, this experimental music thing. I want to learn more about it. Do you want to grab a drink? And I was like, yeah, sure. So we went to a bar in Soho, had a drink, and we decided to jam. And I think it was Mike, me and Amber went to this place in Jersey to have a jam.
What did everybody play? Did you play?
Well, it was funny. Like I brought my keyboards, my sampler. Amber did percussion. She brought a little percussion. And then Mike, like he was so excited. He like found this huge oil drum. He brought his stand-up bass. He brought all this junk percussion and he was like so into it. And we were walking into the place, the rehearsal studio, and they're all looking at us like, what's going to go on there? And so we went into the room and we set up and we're playing and we're about like 40 minutes into a really good jam, which is for the most part, ambient. And Mike has a video. I wish I could find it. So he might still have it. The owner just like opens the door and he goes, "What's going on in here?" And then like it was just total tranquil kind of scene. And he was like, "Oh, this is nice." And he was just like, "What is all this stuff though?" And we told him, you know. But it was.
You mean all the instruments were strange to him?
Well, it was in a big oil drum, like you know, like a container. It wasn't an instrument; it was just a piece of big metal drum, you know. And I think the salsa band was louder down the hallway. I mean, did you guys
deliberately pick venues where you'd be the stick out, or is it just how it happened?
Magic Zerio,
yeah.
Not Pas Musique. No, Magic Zerio used to do that. It was fun. Yeah.
You'd intentionally like go to venues that didn't necessarily embrace that kind of music?
Oh, absolutely. That was the
Yeah,
fun.
yeah,
You
right.
know, and it was kind of cool to see, like when we played CBGB's Gallery to that rock night, like those women dancing. I was like, this is great. Like, you know, it's like that's those are the most fun experiences, to find people that aren't really into it
Yeah.
and they kind of touch on it. You know, it's like, you know, when you're playing to like 10 or 20 people, whatever, that are really into it, you know, they've been there, they've done that. They may like what you're doing, they may not. But like if you're playing weird experimental electronic music to somebody who's never heard it before, it's always kind of cool because their mind's blown.
Yeah, I like that part of it
Did my
too.
job, you know.
Right.
I mean, that works with any art, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, it's
But yeah, and
speaks
then
to them. It speaks to them in a language, you know, that you can't deny, but you can't really put your finger on, like why I like this. It's not an intellectual thing. It's something that hits them instinctively and instinctually, and there's something exciting about that. It's a discovering. They're discovering a part of themselves that they didn't realize was there, and I think that's what's exciting about it. And until you made that opportunity, gave them that opportunity to go like, oh, I resonate with this, and I had no idea, and I
yeah.
don't even want to tell my friends. You know, I'll have to tell them secretly
Yeah,
that
yeah,
because this will ostracize me. You know,
exactly.
you know, something's emerged from my instinct, and it might kick me out of the tribe. So I have to.
Yeah, totally.
But I think that's what's exciting about it, that people can discover, you know, parts of themselves that were hidden, you know, especially with music, and because it's so abstract and works on a not a verbal but instinctual level. Like, to what extent is your music improvised, and to what extent is it written?
It's about 50-50. I mean, maybe these days it's with when I play with the band, it's like 60-40. So 60 planned, 40%.
And do the improvisers have to learn how to improvise, you know, and get better at it?
Oh, well, I would always say yes. I mean, my other band, the Jazz Fakers, I think one of the things that made us sound really good was that we used to jam once a week, you know, for like years. So I think that's what makes an improvisational act stand out more than anyone else, is that you have to improvise all the time. It's not, I mean,
Well,
you're
I mean,
practicing, but you're not like practicing. So, you know, you're just,
well, you're practicing, like the thing with improvising is listening. Like when I first started with a band, we improvised, and everybody is so excited to have an instrument, especially if it's amplified, and they just want to make a lot of noise.
Mhm.
And then the person who was orchestrating our improvisation had to say, like, use, you know, quiet, and then that we had to learn to calm and like listen to the other people and either react with them or against them. But I think initially there's this excitement at that, especially if you if you say to someone, you don't have to know how to, you don't have to be a virtuoso, you don't know how to play this instrument. You can just do, you can just make noise with it. Did you have the same experience where some people just want to make a lot of noise, and then they learn how to listen, and then they learn the language of your other, the more you jam together and improvise together, the more you know, well, this guy usually, or girl, does this or that, you know, this is sort of their language. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen people over the years get better at improvising slash listening, you know, which makes them.
Yeah, it is about listening and responding to the circumstance, and it can be really really exciting, because it's always there's something being discovered. I think it's the same. Like I think the funnest part of making a song is like writing a song is the writing process, and so with that's the most exciting, where something's coming from nothing, and improvising is exciting because something's coming from nothing. Plus, it's also, you're also communicating with other people when you, and that can be exciting too, and to sort of like talk back and forth with noises and notes and rhythms and stuff, and kind of like either argue with them or be in harmony with them, or like, you know, if they're, you know, if they're doing something really staccato and rhythmic, maybe you do something that's a wash, and it really is a conversation. And I think because I think a lot of times when people first listen to improvised music, they might be like, that's not real. Or they might, sometimes they hear something and they think that must be written, and how could you write something like that? Or that, they're really impressed when it's really something that's just happening spontaneously. And some people are being like, how is this written? And it's not written. Well, if it's not written, then you're cheating.
Yeah.
Does this make any sense to you? I've had people
absolutely. There was a one show that I did when I was deep in with the Jazz Fakers. Right now, we don't play too much, but we used to, as I said, jam like every week. And I did a show at Panoply Lab, and I did a solo violin, and I did like a 15-minute improvisation, and this couple came up to me and were like, "Where did you study the violin?" It's like, I never studied it. Like, it was kind of funny. Yeah.
But how did they take that information? Were they like pissed off, or were they impressed, or were they like baffled?
They were impressed. They really thought that I can't remember even if I said that I was improvising or not, but like I just did what I did, and they were like, oh, how long did you prepare this, and like, where did you go to school? And I was just like, I didn't. Like, I just, there was a couple of loose things I knew I wanted to do, but like, but it was late.
No, but their assumption is that all these notes are like written. It's all like pre-written, and you're just like an orchestra takes the composer's score, like that you have a score and that you're performing a score and you could perform it again, the next night, exactly the same.
That's why, we had fun in calling the band the Jazz Fakers,
Yeah.
Faking the jazz, which basically in the beginning, jazz is all improvised, now it's kind of like the standard thing.
Yeah. So, is New York getting more crimey, or is that just are they just saying that
New York thing? Well,
but how about now? Do you think?
Now,
yeah,
I would think so. I mean,
since the pandemic and stuff, how was your 2020?
Well, the first question. So I walking through Manhattan. Hold on, these are the crazy drag racers.
When were you walking through Manhattan?
Walking through Manhattan the past couple of times. I was a couple of weeks ago, but like, I mean, it feels different. Definitely does feel different. It's I don't know. It just not as many people around, and a lot of things are boarded up. A lot of kind of weirdos walking around. I mean, you get a lot of statistics on crime around. And the crime definitely has gone up to a point.
Yeah, because I've heard about the statistics going up, but I haven't heard any anecdotal from my friends about.
I mean, I haven't seen anything, thankfully.
Yeah.
But I know there is.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was with you months ago, walking on 42nd Street, we bumped into those 2 or 3 crazy homeless people, and like, it was pretty rough.
Oh yeah, we were filming though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, there's that. I mean, Brooklyn. I don't know. Certain parts of Brooklyn probably have gone up. Certain parts haven't. But I mean, I don't know. Around here, it seems insane, but it's all right. But I know Crown Heights seems to have gone up a lot, which isn't that far away. So there's been isolated instances by Flatbush too. So
yeah.
I mean, it comes with the pandemic and all.
Yeah. So Saturday Night Live had its first maskless show since the pandemic on Saturday. So
really?
Are we really opening up?
Live in ages, yeah.
Well, it's like I just see it on YouTube clips. I get YouTube clips. Oh, from 6 hours ago. Well, that I get them Sunday or whatever, and they're from the night before. And like there were 4 cast members, and they all had masks. But then the band behind them, the cast members at the opening of the show didn't have masks. And they were like saying how wonderful this is that we're finally, and reflecting on the past year. But then the band in the back had masks on, so I don't know what's going on. Huh. I don't know if we're opening up or not. I don't know if we've conquered
to every, it's wherever you go, it's to your discretion. I don't know. No, I think so. Like, if you have a business, it's up to you how you want to work it.
Yeah. But
Yeah, I mean,
is the virus on the run or not?
I got nothing.
Who
I mean,
knows? That's what I mean. That's what I mean. No.
okay, well, the numbers are
What?
definitely down in New York at least,
They're down?
and yeah, they're down. And it
Yeah.
seems like the places that have been getting a lot more of the vaccines, the numbers are down. So to me, hey, it's going in the right direction. So it's yeah, fingers crossed, man. Like, and it's summer too, so last summer the numbers went down too. So I'm just hoping that the winter doesn't pick up.
So how was your 2020?
Sedentary.
Good
Sitting
sedent
around a
what?
lot.
Good sedentary or not?
I mean, good and bad, I guess. You can't tour, you can't do art shows, you can't see friends a lot. But with that, I have a great garden in the back, which I put together, and I've been really enjoying waking up every day and doing some gardening, and seeing the garden grow and stuff. Which I haven't done that since I was a little kid. So I'm kind of fortunate, I guess, in that respect, to do that again last year and this year. My day job, I get to work from home, so that's provided this opportunity. I'm fortunate. Some people aren't, but the garden's really kept me level, and being with my wife Stacy, so she was a very great person to quarantine with.
Good.
And also enjoy the garden. Then we also have a dog, Charlie, so he's also helpful in making us laugh. So,
All right.
yeah,
Let me
so I
ask
mean,
you. What?
it's a good and bad thing, If you just kind of, I don't know, for me, you kind of go with the changes and try to make them.
Yeah.
The other option is to sit at home and just complain about everything, get depressed. I don't know.
Can I ask about drug experiences?
Sure. What do you want to know?
What do you experience with drugs? We already talked about smoking a little weed, and then
Yeah, I
have you done
mean,
LSD or psychedelics and stuff? What's your experience? I haven't done
yeah,
none.
I mean, I think there's benefits to those things. There's good drugs and bad drugs, right? I think the bad drugs are obviously stuff that you just get totally ruined, like heroin, cocaine, like crack.
Alcohol's supposed to be the worst for
And
you
that's,
physically,
well, yeah,
actually.
yeah. I mean, I do drink, but I'm not such a fan of it. But I do enjoy a glass of wine now and then. But like I used
But I
to drink
mean,
when I was younger, and it kind of.
but did you have a whole like druggy,
But
trippy stage of your life, or no?
I mean, when you're younger, you do things, but also like all the science behind it is getting interesting, right? Because any hallucinogen or psychedelic in smaller doses seems to be like beneficial to depression and
Yeah, they're giving ketamine to
well,
people with
yeah,
major depression.
yeah.
Yeah. I remember you invited me. I was like 2 days off out of the psych ward, and you invited me to this psychedelics thing where people were like,
I
"Take
thought maybe you
ayahuasca."
were
What?
interested. I mean, it was pretty convincing to me. I don't know. I mean,
I don't
you
know.
weren't
I don't
you
need to
weren't
go
going to go
more.
to Peru right then and there to do
Yeah,
like
but I would
ayahuasca
go.
ceremony.
I need to get out of here and go into the real world. I can't. I can't. There was too much of a temptation to go deeper within and stay there. And
Yeah, yeah. But
but
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's a heavy thing, right?
I'm a
I mean,
bad candidate because I have addiction in my
well, I honestly don't think you'd be getting addicted to something like ayahuasca because it's, yeah, I don't
well,
think
I
it's,
don't think it's the substance. I think it's the person. I think it's the host.
well, it's a lot. Well, that could be true, but I mean,
I
I'm
think
not,
it's the predisposition of the
but a
person.
lot of people walk away from it with positive experiences. So,
No, I understand. Yeah.
for sure.
It's just I go, going within is an I mean, even I'm sober almost 14 years, and I meditate deeply and I forget to breathe. I don't think that's a good sign.
Well, I mean,
I don't think it's a good sign that I want to be on the earth or I want to be
if you
breathing.
really forgot to breathe, you would be not breathing right now.
No, but that's the thing. It's like there's me and then there's my instinct, and that's like I
Yeah.
don't want to be here.
I meditate as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's possible to forget to breathe. I think you just.
Well, I get to the
that
points
you're
where I'm
breathing.
like, my breath is so shallow that I gasp for breath, and I get like this anxiety. doesn't happen all. It hasn't happened for a while, but I used to go really deeply into meditation, and my breathing would be so slow, and that
I go there
it
too.
would stop, and then I would suddenly be gasping for breath. I mean, that's the instinct, but
Yeah, I know. I don't think I've ever experienced that meditating, or I do go pretty deep into it, but like,
yeah,
I don't
and
think
your
I've ever
breathing
had
slows
that
down.
problem.
No, but I mean, because I forgot to breathe, and then like my body is saying we're dying, and it sucks in the
Mm,
oxygen.
mm,
But it's like I just think it's a sign of a very weak will to live. But I
maybe.
have that's my argument.
Yeah, yeah.
But
But it's fun. Yeah, I mean, it definitely puts me in a good place when I'm there. It does make me feel positive.
meditation,
Yeah, it does
yeah.
make me feel positive. I mean, they say, there's meditation and psychedelic drugs. Sorry, this is
You want to
probably,
get that?
well, no, it's probably a spam call. It is a spam call. Shut
Okay.
it off. Get them like 4 times a day or more. But I think there's they say meditation and psychedelic drugs do similar things to your brain. But meditation is the long road as opposed to taking something like mushrooms, which is the fast.
Yeah. I always thought that meditating would I'd lose my edge, and that I would become complacent and I wouldn't want to challenge things. And so I think but then but after I did that trip, I did, whatever, it has consequences.
Yeah.
But what are you doing nowadays
Nowadays,
artistically?
well, artistically, I think in September, my cooperative gallery is opening up again in September. So I will be displaying my art because I was supposed to have a show in March of last year, and then COVID happened, and that totally went down the tube. So I have a full show ready to go, and I'm going to be the first show in September. So
It's
that's
the
going to be fun.
Pleiades Gallery.
Beatty's Gallery, yes, it'll be on another location, I think on 37th Street in Manhattan. I'm also working on a bunch of music stuff.
The Pleiades is a new location. It's not in the gallery part of.
It has a new physical location, but it's still the same name.
Where's the new physical
I
location?
think it's a block over, so it's probably 26th Street in
Okay.
Chelsea. Between
So should I just put your website on the
yeah, any
YouTube?
any relevant information will be on the robertlpepper.net site.
.net. Okay. I like uh your the Black Sunday. It gives me an afro. It gives me some hair.
Black Sunday.
No, the actress you said it was.
Oh, yeah,
Her
yeah.
name
She's on
escapes
Black
me.
Sunday. Barbara Steele.
Barbara
Oh, it does give
Steele
you an afro.
is giving me an afro,
Yes.
or at least some hair. Giving me like Gene Simmons hair. His
Yeah, you
hair
look
is sort of
good.
like a helmet, like helmet hair.
You look good.
All right, I'm starting to space out.
You look good at Barbara. Well, I was also gonna say,
I don't look
I
good. I'm fat.
you look
Okay,
good as
keep going.
Barbara.
What were we gonna say?
Um,
I'm losing focus.
I was gonna say the other thing that I'm working on is a lot of music. One is a new duo with Ron Anderson called Zoku Metsu, and that's coming out in I think the pre-sale is in July, and then it's coming out in August. That's a new vinyl on Aulon Music. I'm also working on a full band release with John Worthley, Jesse Fairbairn, and Michael Dura, the pop music. That's called Amateur Radio, and that's coming out in October. And then I'm working on 2 art editions with Robin Story from Raccoon, aka Zovia France. And those are coming out probably at the end of the year. Those are quarantine sessions that we've had online. And the other, yeah, that's right. So rewind to the music part before. So Zovia France is one of my biggest influences. And years later, I wound up booking Robin from Raccoon, who used to be in Zovia France as one of the founding members. And that was in like, I don't know, I can't remember now, 2010, 11. And from there, we became really good friends. So for the past probably 8 years. We've been collaborating on different releases, and now we have a trio called Old Castle, which also is coming out. We have one of those coming out on Zohara label. Forgive me if I'm saying that wrong. That's based out of Poland. So it's called Welcome to Graceland, because we all went to Graceland on our Old Castle tour last time, and that was a lot of fun. So so now I'm working with Robin, the guy who kind of influenced me doing all this stuff. So which is fantastic, which is really exciting. Hopefully this year we'll be doing some gigs. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see how this whole COVID thing goes. But we did have a lot of plans to do things together, but obviously it all fell through. But working on tons of music, and hopefully, I don't know. I would like to work on another film. It's just I haven't gotten there yet. I have some ideas, but the last.
How do you do all this stuff without a cell phone? Maybe you have a secret cell phone, but you're one of my friends who doesn't really communicate with cell phone. But you have this massive output and collaborations with people. You've worked with people throughout the globe. It's very impressive.
I'm always on my computer, either for work or at home. So when I go out to
email,
email or IMs. But when I go out to take a walk, I don't want to be found. I want to be outside, people watching, enjoying nature,
right?
Hiking, biking, running, whatever. So that's kind of what it is. But I'm always, when I'm home. Nowadays I'm always on the computer.
And you're available, but then it's almost like a boundary. It's like when I'm outside, there's the boundary. Yeah. But you can have these boundaries, and they're not walls.
Exactly.
You can still do this, prolific.
I do get a cell phone when I go on tour because I need it as a tool. Because I've toured in Indonesia, and I wouldn't have been able to do the touring there without a cell phone because I have no idea where I'm going, what people are saying.
Right.
I've gotten lost in a rice paddy field and just clicked on the cell phone and I walked myself to the venue.
Cool.
Amazing.
Do you have any other stories? I'm gonna let you.
Well,
the floor is yours, Robert, for the next.
Stories. Tours are great. Let's see. Last tour, we did about 15 gigs throughout the United States. In the different cities. It was a full band, except for John. John doesn't tour with us, but it was me, Jesse, and Mike. We were driving around in a Dodge Charger, and we did all these crazy shows. That was a fun tour. And then before that was Indonesia, where I went solo for 3 weeks, and I did about 15 shows there. Went to places like Balikpapan and Samarinda, which you've probably never heard of. Played small gigs in outdoors in the jungle and rice paddy fields, and hotels and bars. It was just crazy. And you don't make a lot of money there because it's a poor country, but nobody's got any money. But damn, man, the gigs are great. Everyone's so supportive. They come out, they feed you from your homes, you stay at their places. It's the time in your life, whatever you say. But in the States, it's kind of hard to get people out. They're kind of jaded in a way. I don't know. There's good gigs, don't get me wrong, but it's just in Indonesia, full on.
Yeah. That's what I came to New York because I wanted to be in the center of the stuff, but also it was because I was excited about this stuff, almost like a kid. I'm thrilled with it, but then you get here and people are like if you show any enthusiasm, it might have changed. If you show any enthusiasm, that there are people trying to and it's very competitive too, and people want to outcool you, or you have to be cool. Yeah. But maybe it's gotten a little changed since then.
I think it's just New York, you have everyone here. It's just a saturation.
Yeah, there's a saturation of stuff. But I think it's awesome that music has enabled you to sort of be an ambassador. It's almost been like the language that's connected you with these people from throughout the world, and then and the gratitude that they have, and the fact that it's something that speaks non-verbally, and the fact that you're sort of there and at mercy of the elements, even though in that you're lost in a rice paddy and you find your way. and that the people around you are warm, and you come as as an artist rather
Oh
than.
yeah, and it's great. You go there, and I mean that scene is so supportive and friendly. It's really amazing. Like one thing came to mind when I was on that tour. Where was I? Somewhere in the middle. I think it was Bandung, and I get off the train, and this guy Rama picks me up. I never met him before, and he's on his motorbike, and I've got these two huge bags, and he's like, "Well, we're taking those bags on the motorbike," and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "Yeah." So I positioned it where we made it work, and we drove to the hotel where I was staying at, and there was no hotel. It was the weirdest thing. It was just completely shut down. It was, but they were still booking it on Expedia. And we just
You
sat
mean
there.
it was closed, right? It wasn't.
It was closed, but it looked like it was closed for a long time.
Right.
But they were still booking it on Expedia, and it was like, what the frick? And so we sat down, and I'm like ringing the bell, and he's talking to this guy walking down the block, and the guy's like, yeah, that's been closed for a long time. And we just both kind of sat down and started laughing, and we were like, hey, you know what? Let's just go for a drink, and then we'll go figure it out. So I mean, it was just, it's just the people go out of their way, and they try to make it a good experience, through the.
And that's
But
what I find. That's why what I find impressive about you is that you don't sweat the small stuff, and you don't let these things get you down. And it's very much like the spirit of improvisation is that you work with what you have. If someone can't show up, or something, because I used to be a little more, it's got to be this way and so forth. And so I would be like, if someone didn't show a gig, I'd fire him or something ridiculous like that. Because when I was like 21 or something, and then you realize, because I was like, oh, this vision is more important than people. But when but then you're alone with your genius, and no one gives a shit. But I mean, if you really you're present, and you put people and over the product, then and that the music is a means to connect with people and to have a human experience, and not necessarily make some statement that that the art is more important than the people. I think when I put art more important than the people, then I suffered consequences. But I think when you put sort of the people and the human experience and sort of what in general art can do and music can do, which is just sort of have a to commune with one another from whatever differences and backgrounds sort of melt away, and that you find your common ground, to put that at the forefront rather than, I need to make this specific artistic statement, and it just comes from insecurity and fear too.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a generosity with you, and I think putting the human beings before sort of like the product, and it sort of helps it become more of something where it's a communal experience, and then you can have these rich experiences with people.
Yeah, well, it's like, getting together doing this stuff, it's just a lot of fun. No, really, I don't care where you're coming from. Just don't give me a hard time. Just play music, just do art. Let's have a good time. It's like when I booked Spectrum, I booked Spectrum for 7 years until the pandemic. Most people that came in there knew the deal. They'd come and hang out, relax. If they were a little bit uptight, I'd be like, hey guys, it's cool. We're just going to sit down, bring in beer, have fun. Let's play for each other. Maybe we'll make a few bucks at the door. That's cool. I've had some people going in there with demands and stuff, and I'm like, you know what? You just don't have to play. I'm just like, this isn't it. I don't care who you are, but I'm here to have fun. It's like, I'm not getting paid a lot for this, and I'm not getting paid at all, really. Most of
because I've been reading about the early 80s in New York, because I was in my thing, and it was all just, and it was like, but now I'm starting to study what was happening around me. And the thing is that all these scenes that became something really did start with what you're talking about, of just hanging around and having fun, and nobody was into it,
Yeah,
except your friends. And it was like, and then suddenly, either money comes in with the 80s and like competitions, and you've stolen from me. And then it becomes this sort of competitive thing. And then people on the outside see this scene where that's made a lot of money, and they think, I'm going to do that, rather than, and they lose sight of that. It was just a matter of like these outsiders getting together and having,
yeah,
these freaks getting together, or friends, and just saying like, let's just have fun. And this is just a, you know,
exactly. Yeah.
and the outsiders, I think people, and then I don't know. So I was
I mean, it's great to share. It's just great to share your creativity. Whether it's music or art and everything.
divorced from sort of like the pathological ambition of like making it a career or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's been a few of those coming in the spectrum, and I just tell them, I'm like, listen, no offense, I was like, but you don't have to play here. And most of the times they'll walk out. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
I'm
What are
like,
their demands?
it's usually money.
Oh yeah.
Or they'll be
Okay.
like, don't you know me? I'm blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't care. I can't give you more than probably $25 tonight. I'm from the door. I don't know. Like, it's what are you gonna do? I can't make money come from nothing.
Boy, I learned early on that the art is not going to pay the rent. I mean, that was like
9 out of 10 times.
lesson one. It was like, look, and you work within your
It's a
means.
hard deal. It's a hard
Yeah, it's like it's
deal.
ridiculous.
You know, but I don't let that deter me from making it. I find ways to do it.
All right. Well, what about Duran Duran? That's the elephant in the room.
Well,
You're a
that's
huge Duran Duran fan, right?
my favorite band,
Yeah.
except for a few albums. Like I don't like Red Carpet Massacre or the last one, which was pop some. Anyway, I can't even remember it. But no, I grew up listening to Duran Duran, and I absolutely loved them. Like the first 3 or 4 albums, and then they kind of went downhill a little bit, and then switched band members around. And then a lot of that stuff, I like only half of the album. But like, I don't know, they have a good mix of like style. I mean, I don't know. Is there something I should know? That's basically a Rene Magritte painting. I learned some surrealism from them. I learned keyboard playing from Nick. I was like, synthesizers, what's that? I mean, he was my first person that I looked after for synthesizers. John Taylor's bass lines. Those are the first bass lines I ever picked out of a song to actually flag down a bass. So I mean, all of that kind of stuff, and the style was cool too back in the days. I mean, I'm still hoping that they come out with another good album, but it hasn't happened since like Astronaut or
I remember Ordinary World was a beautiful.
that was a good one in a different way. I do like that album, but like they've got some pretty bad ones. But I mean, not everybody. Everyone's catalog's got some bad ones. But like
My favorite band, King Crimson, like has some shit albums, like Earthbound. It's like,
they all do. I mean,
but then it has these moments where they're brilliant, and that's what you go for. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. There is a connection there. There's a Duran Duran King Crimson segue, I think, isn't it? And Frank Zappa, wasn't it? Warren Cucurella and somebody from Crimson played at the same time. I mean, Zappa had like everybody.
Adrian Belew played with Zappa.
Yeah,
and King Crimson. Yeah.
One of them.
Meaning, I don't know if there's any. I like bands that take chances, or artists that take chances, and that you can tell they're performing at the peak of their ability.
Yeah.
And that's why I find, like Clapton's too safe for me, and Page is sloppy, but he takes risks, and he's more of a composer. He can write Kashmir or like songs, but then there's Jeff Beck, who's got the technique and the creativity, but he can't write anything. Yeah. But I mean,
I never single out any music. I just like music because it's good organized sound. Like I like funk, I like pop, I like some metal, I like some punk, I like some experimental.
But when you were a kid, what hit you? What's the thing? What's your first memory of a piece of work of art that really like spoke to you, that woke something up within you?
I mean, let's see. A work of art, meaning music.
You know, even music, film, or even a TV show.
Well,
Or
I
whatever.
mean, film. I remember.
Maybe seeing Marianne on Gilligan's Island. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it was kind of cute, you know.
Or were you a ginger? Okay, keep going.
I think Marianne rather
Okay.
than Ginger. Yeah, I like the pigtails. No, it was one thing that stands out from the question. My ex-girlfriend's sister got me into a lot of cool stuff. She got me into like Bowie. She got me into movies like Liquid Sky and Christian F. I remember seeing Liquid Sky and Christian F the same night, and I was just like mind blown. Like I was like, wow. Like I was like, what is all this stuff? You know, because it didn't. Either both movies weren't like the norm for me. You know, so it was just like all of this like subculture. It's kind of like when I went to Tompkins Square Park that time. It's like all at once, like saturation of it, you know. And I was like, this is great. I love it. I don't know why, but it's so kind of weird, you know. And Christian F, I was like, Bowie, and this is great, but it's also depressing. And I was just like, and then that scene when they're getting off the intravenous drugs, I was like, I never gonna do that. I was never ever. And I think every kid should watch that movie, and they'll never want to or shoot up code, right? But
Yeah.
but I mean,
Basquiat should
I
have
learned
seen.
about like Berlin from that. And I wanted to go there, which I did years later for tour, and then like there was Bowie, and then Liquid Sky, which is like, what is this? They're kind of punk, but not punk, and they're weird, but and the movie's not the best film, but I love it because it's so weird and it's so well done, and visually it's striking. And I remember seeing that on VHS on a 4:3 box, you know. And years later, I got the 60:9 reproduction from Vinegar Syndrome, and I was like, oh my god, they actually shot this on film. I was like, and like now I see the whole screen. I was just kind of so excited because that film really.
But I think that you go from a place of sort of deprivation, and then you're introduced to this world. I don't know if with the internet, like there's no incubator phase. I mean, it's all sort of out there.
I mean, yes and no.
Or maybe it's a matter of like maturation. It's like you grow up and you can only take a certain amount, and then when you get a teenager, you want to have more new experiences. And maybe it comes from the individual and the maturation as people grow older, they want to suddenly take in this new information or this new world. If you're like, what?
I'm always looking for that special film or band or whatever. I mean, you still find it, but you got to go through a lot of stuff, especially if you know so much stuff. You know, like, I mean, that's why I like a lot of B films. You know, it's just like, I watch a lot of like stuff on Vinegar Syndrome, or like Synapse Films, or like a couple more. But like, they reproduce like stuff from Asia from the 80s and stuff, and I'm always like, oh wow, this is great. You know, like, it's kind of cool to see what that culture is doing with these themes of horror. I mean, I'm a big horror fan, so that's.
I like all the versions of like different cultures make a version of like the Wizard of Oz or Star Wars or Spider-Man.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
those are hilarious to watch.
We watched the Bollywood Dracula the other night. It's fantastic. I love it. It's so cool.
Blackula came out the year you were born. It came out the year you were born.
That's right. I remember watching that a lot when I was younger. I should revisit that actually. They had it on Channel 5 all the time. That, Godzilla, Kung Fu Theater, all that good stuff. No wonder why I still like all this crazy stuff.
All right. So any I'm going to wrap it up.
Okay.
Do you have any other things you'd like to say or promote?
Thank you for taking the time to do this, and I hope you continue to do this because I think it's a great idea. And you can go to my website at robertlpepper.net or pasmusique.net to find my audio recordings and stuff. And of course, that's all on Bandcamp. But that's my self-promotion.
All right, cool. And pas musique is not music in French, right?
That is correct.
Meaning, like, don't come with assumptions about what is and isn't music. I'm going to say this isn't music, and see it as raw experience.
It's just
what did Susan Sontag say? Against interpretation. Go in
There you go.
with a child's mind.
Exactly.
Okay. Are you good with me posting this?
I'm totally with you.
Okay. You haven't said anything you feel
Eh,
will incriminate you?
I'm good.
All right.
Don't tell anybody about Duran Duran. I'm
No.
just kidding. I'm just
Look,
kidding.
I'm sure anyone can easily defend Duran
And
Duran.
if any of you guys are out there watching this right now in Duran Duran, what's up?
Johnny. But they've stood the test of time, you know.
They have.
They had more hits than a flock of seagulls. But
That's
all
true.
right, so I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you
All
for
right.
participating in Earthlings of Interest. Have a great evening.
Glad to be
Peace.
on.